Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're located on planet Earth. It is time for another edition of the PulseWave Report with yours truly, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger Reports. So, what do we have here? Well, Bitcoin Futures Composite Index is up $860 right now, trading above the 37,000 handle, which is well above the support zone of 30,000 to 35,000. So the market is respecting the zones, which is a good thing. We did not get consecutive closes below the 30,000 threshold. This is a good sign for the futures composite index. This also shows you that, once again, the pulse waves were correct in predicting the support zone long before the Bitcoin Futures Composite Index even hit 30,000. So keep that in mind. Just doing a cursory scan. For the most part, the markets are kind of quiet today. Dow futures are down 46. E-mini S&P 500 is up 10.5. The NASDAQ up 79 and 3/4 points. Russell, my hustle, is now down. I'm sorry, now up a point. It was down like 4 points. And you got gold up $6, and silver is now up 59 cents, but it's at the $26 handle. And gold is at 1839. Excuse me. You know, I've been doing my due diligence on my end of things and thinking about what's been going on. And I don't know. My opinions can sometimes flip-flop just as much as the markets do. Because, I'm flexible. As new information becomes available, it may sway my opinions or what I think or what I believe. I am open to whatever the truth leads me. And that's how I like to do it. I like to know what's going on, and whatever reality is at the end of that rabbit hole is what we have to deal with. So I'm changing my opinions a little bit. Excuse me. I'm thinking that the infighting between the powers that be, the ruling elite classes, has not stopped. As a matter of fact, it may be just getting heated up. And I think that we are witnessing the public, feuding. And I think GameStop was just a example of that. I think that the whole GameStop thing is being used as a ploy to bring about more regulation for whatever purpose or whatever rules and laws they want to stuff in there for whatever agenda they're seeking. It's already, in my opinion, the evidence that exists has suggested that I was correct when I was looking at the money flows. I was correct, and that excuse me, there has always been big money pushing these markets, because let's be honest, little people cannot move markets. So it has become to my attention that is exactly what has happened. All right. More specifically, it does appear that some very big players, very important people, may have been involved. And that is really jacked up. Really jacked up. What do I mean? Where am I going with all of this? Well, first of all, if you do not peep what I did yesterday, you may want to go ahead and take a look at that. All right. I can't even begin to repeat all what I've been saying over the last few days, but all my videos thank God, are still up on YouTube, so you can peep them for yourself. My evening segments are, you know, strictly for the charts. I pull up the algo charts and we go over some things. But the mornings is more me speaking my mind. No charts necessary. So I think that the elite have tipped their hand, and they may have, you know, done this on purpose or not. I don't know, but we'll see. But are you aware that Janet Yellen, who was the Fed chair, who is now being put over the Treasury, the Department of Treasury, has received an ethics waiver, all right, to lead regulator meeting on GameStop after she received over $800,000 from Citadel. That's right, you heard me correctly. Can you say conflict of interest? It has now become clear that just a few seconds after the AOC first rage tweeted about Robinhood refusing to let the people trade more shares of GameStop and AMC before adding that she'd support a public hearing on what had just happened, that all the key players in the Wall Street bets and GameStop trading saga would soon be dragged out in front of Congress. That's right. The newly elected Democrats and their hand-picked economic team were faced with a critical question. Who exactly was going to preside over these proceedings on the regulatory side? Since they are virtually all comprised by key connections to the financial services industry and not just the big banks. Can you say conflict of interest? You know, the big money that's behind all the high frequency trading, the people that get to front run your orders, the people who buy your information that is sold to them by Wall Street. Yeah, those dudes. Those dudes. So Janet Yellen receives over $800,000 from Citadel. Okay. So you got to think, why and how is this being allowed to happen? Oh, you just get an ethics waiver saying that you don't need to use ethics. We're going to waive ethics in this situation. So now she gets to preside over all the things that she and her comrades have caused over the past couple of decades. And yet she received almost $1 million in speaking fees in the past 2 years from Citadel, which is the firm that is the quasi-monopoly market maker in the U.S., responsible for half of retail order flow thanks to its domination of Robinhood trades. Yep. And this is why 1 month ago, Yellen pledged in an ethics form that she will recuse herself for 1 year from when she last made paid speeches to the companies. And yes, her last speech to Citadel was last October. It turns out this was all a joke and a lie. And unfortunately for her and the integrity of Americans' so-called markets, the Treasury Secretary has received permission from ethics lawyers to lead the proceedings, which will begin Thursday with the meeting of top U.S. market regulators. Once again, can you say conflict of interest? Then again, we already kind of knew that, because when asked during the Thursday White House press conference whether Yellen would recuse herself from advising the president on the ongoing GameStop shorting after having been previously paid upwards of $1 million in speaking fees from Robinhood's largest customer, Press Secretary Jen Psaki didn't seem to have a problem with relying on the new Democratic Treasury Secretary's counsel. Separate from the GameStop issue, the Secretary of the Treasury is one of the world-renowned experts on markets, on the economy. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. She was paid to give her perspective and advice before she came into office. That's what she told reporters, ignoring the obvious conflict of interest. If that was Donald Trump doing it, you better believe it would have been paraded all over the media. It then got downright surreal when she implied that it was sexist to mention Yellen's conflict of interest because she's a woman. So then it's only conflict of interest if it's a man? Quote, I'm also happy to repeat that we have the first female Treasury Secretary, Psaki said in opening her response to the question from a reporter, going on to say that Yellen's communications team would typically take those questions instead of her. So we're supposed to ignore that Janet Yellen accepted $810,000 in speaking fees from Citadel, who is the owner of Robinhood. The reporter stated that it doesn't matter. They said she's an expert and she deserves that money. Even when she was grilled by reporters. So, are there any plans to recuse herself from advising the president on GameStop and Robinhood situation? No, she's an expert and deserves that money. Really? Really? In any case, with Citadel client Yellen in tow, congressional hearings are expected to follow later this month in the House and the Senate, with the House Financial Services Committee led by Maxine Waters and stocked with firebrand progressives leading the way. Here's one more on that from Bloomberg. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has summoned U.S. financial regulators to discuss recent volatility in financial markets. In her first public effort to address the turmoil involving GameStop Corp. Shares and broker-dealer Robinhood Markets, Inc., Yellen called a meeting with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Reserve Board, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. The Treasury said in a statement late Tuesday, the Biden administration and regulators have faced pressure in recent days to respond to the market frenzy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are setting a very dangerous precedent here. Like I told you, I knew something was up. Something just didn't feel right, even though I couldn't put my finger on it. And I think we're seeing it right now. First of all, let's get this straight. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission, known as the CFTC, has not a darn diddly doodle to do with stocks. It's all about commodity futures, ladies and gentlemen. GameStop had absolutely no bearing on how the stock indexes performed during its run-up. No bearing. Drop in the bucket. Drop in the bucket. So why does the CFTC have to be involved? They have nothing to do with stocks. Nothing to do with stocks. They do not oversee nor regulate on the stock market. That is not their lane. Their lane is commodity futures. What is going on? Secretary Yellen believes the integrity of markets is important and has asked for a discussion of recent volatility in financial markets and whether recent activities are consistent with investor protection and fair and efficient markets, the department said. Stop right there. They create these ridiculous scenarios and circumstances as false flags. Then they want to come in with their little solutions. Problem, action, solution. Where was her antennas last March of 2020 when the Dow Jones futures fell like 3,000 points in a day? I didn't hear them saying nothing about integrity of markets. I didn't hear them saying nothing about protecting people. They didn't give a darn. As a matter of fact, they turned the circuit breakers off and they turned the curbs off. There was no curbs in the market. There was no circuit breakers. As a matter of fact, they changed rules, laws, circumstances, and regulations regarding circuit breakers and made it something absolutely ridiculous. Like the Dow has to fall 50,000 points before you even say, okay, we need to close the market or do something about it. Just insane. And it shows you that these people do not understand an iota about economics and finance. They don't understand nothing. And if they do, then it makes it even more wicked and perverse because they're not using any of the sound financial principles regarding finance and economics. They have suspended all reason. Yellen's predecessors, including Steven Mnuchin, also organized meetings of financial agencies during times of turmoil that aren't necessarily a signal that any policy moves are imminent. The SEC already said Friday it's seeking to identify potential misconduct and will scrutinize brokerages' decisions to halt buying that triggered a retail investor revolt. Once again, they don't give a darn about you. This is about a bigger agenda. Where were their antennas last March? That's what I want to know. I didn't hear no one crying out about the poor market. It was only about COVID. That's all you heard is COVID, 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 COVID. You didn't hear nothing about markets. They were not concerned with the financial integrity of the market. They were not concerned about protecting investors then. Where was her antennas when they allowed crude oil futures to drop to negative 100? Where was the CFTC then? I didn't hear about no investigation then. I didn't hear about any analysis whatsoever. The Treasury Secretary was silent. The Fed, the Royal Reserve was silent. The regulators were silent. Maxine Waters and her financial committee were silent. You allowed something that is never supposed to happen. What do you have to say for yourself? We're talking about selective enforcement of the rules. Rules only apply to everyone else, not to the elite. And to this day, John Corazon has not spent 5 minutes in jail. And he walked away with $1 billion of investor money. What happened to commingling of funds and malfeasance and misappropriation of funds? And what about commingling and manipulation and coercion and collusion? You locked up Martha Stewart on less, but he got a free pass and he took $1 billion. Selective enforcement. Selective enforcement. Selective enforcement. And now they want to look into something that they caused, created, and allowed to happen. The little guy did not create dark pools. The little guy did not create high frequency trading. The little guy did not write the rules allowing for a stock to be shorted 150%. The little guy had nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. That's all them. So are they going to investigate themselves? Are they going to investigate why on earth they would allow such things to take place, period? Why are you allowing high frequency trading? Why are you allowing stocks to be shorted 150%? Why are you allowing dark pools to exist? Why are you allowing conflict of interest? Why are you allowing anyone who works on the Hill to be able to bypass insider trading and have those rules not apply to them? Why? I think Jadakiss said it the best. Why? He asked the question, why? That's it. Why? One little word. Why? Why? Remember when he said, why did Bush knock down the towers? Well, I'm saying, why did the financial authorities, regulating authorities, allow stocks to be shorted at 150%? Why did they allow dark pools? Why did they allow high frequency trading? Why did they allow the selling and distribution of traders' positions in the market in the first place? If you have such a problem with it, because information is bought and sold. You can buy. And why did you even allow for the powers that be? You allow big funds to purchase government reports in advance of their release. No one's talking about that. I don't hear Janet Yellen having a problem with that. I don't hear anyone having a problem with any of that. What's up with Auntie now? I don't hear Auntie talking about that and how that needs to be investigated. What, you mean the exchanges allow, the government allows for big funds to purchase information before it's made to the available to the public? Really? So they already know what the Fed what announcements are gonna be? They already know what the jobless claims number is gonna be? They are yes, and yes, and yes. Absolutely. Yes. You have the money, you meet the qualifications, you can pay for it. You can buy it. Information is expensive, but information is powerful. Why do you think Bloomberg terminals cost so much money to have on your desk? Tens of thousands of dollars. Because of what the machines entail. That's why you have a Bloomberg terminal on your desk. Because you can research anything regarding the markets every which way to Sunday. They got charts going back to generations. Here's what Grandpa Pappy did with his shares of Acme Inc. back in 1870. Bloomberg terminals are the bomb. If you can afford one and you know how to use it. Yeah. Why did they allow all these things? Why did they allow all these gadgets and gadgets if they're afraid people are going to make money with them? But I never heard them come out and investigate or talk about investigating the crude oil futures markets. Never, ever. You allow crude oil futures to drop negative $100 per barrel. Futures are designed to not ever go to zero. Not to mention negative. Interest rates can go negative, but not a commodity. That's why it's called a commodity. It will always have intrinsic value. You can't have commodities with no intrinsic value because then they're not commodities any longer. We're talking about scarce natural resources with alternative uses. How can they ever be worthless or beyond worthless? Negative 100. Meaning you have to pay me if you're going to give that to me. Can you imagine walking in to Foot Locker when the new Jordans drop? And you say, yeah, hook me up with them new Jordans right there. Size 12, size 13. And they say, okay, sir, that'll be $500. No, I think you got it twisted, sir. You need to pay me $500 and then give me the Jordans. You need to pay me to take these Jordans off your hands. Because that's what they were saying when they took crude oil negative 100. You're saying you need to pay me $100 a barrel to take the barrels off your hands. How can a natural resource that is scarce, that has alternative uses, be deemed worthless or worse than worthless. Negative 100. You got to pay me $100 if you want to give it to me. Really? Really? Did I hear Janet Yellen investigate? Nope. Did you hear Maxine Waters and the Financial Committee talk about bringing all the heads of the crude oil traders and things of that nature up here to testify and explain how this happened? Nope. Did you hear them say, hey, we're sticking up for the little guy. The little guy just got decimated here. Nope, I didn't hear nothing about that. And you never will. Or how about a real big one? I know they're going to like this one, so they want to talk about protecting people, protecting the integrity of the markets. Let's take it up a notch. What is more important, national security or protecting the integrity of the markets? I'll let you think about that one for a second. The answer is always going to be national security. So since you are such a patriot, this goes for Maxine Waters and Janet Yellen and the Federal Reserve Board and the Department of Treasury and the CFTC and the SEC. Since you guys are so much patriots, since you're so patriotic and you love the United States of America so much that you're willing to die protecting it, and you will always make sure that investigations are done, especially when it's the integrity of the markets or national security, then why have you not investigated who those shares belong to? Remember the person that shorted the airline stocks on 9/11 and made like 2, 3, 4, 5, how many millions they made? Remember that? Oh, well, we have no idea. We have no way of knowing. And to this day, supposedly, no one has ever come forward to collect the money. Why don't you investigate that? To me, that is way more important than what happened in GameStop. That is way more important than what happened with the crude oil market going negative 100. What up with that? How Martin used to say it on his show? What's up? No investigation of something so key to national security? No investigation? The SEC was quiet. No one wants to talk about that. Just quiet, just chilling. Not even an investigation? Really? You allow terrorism on national soil, and you don't so much investigate who shorted them airline stocks like that and made millions? Really? But you choked up over GameStop because the stock rallied from $20 to $500? Since when did you get concerned that stocks rise too fast? Where was your outcry in the 90s? This is not the first time stocks did that. What about Yahoo going from $30 to $300 in 30 days? I haven't seen an investigation on that one. What's up? No investigations, ladies and gentlemen. This is a joke. When it truly counts, they're silent. They don't care about the market. They don't care about the economy. And they don't care about national security. What they care about is their individual agendas. That's what they care about. And the sooner the people of the United States figure that out, the better off everyone will be. You need to understand these things going into it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've already explained to you the top secret about the financial markets that they don't want you to know. Yeah, there are top secrets in the financial markets that they don't want you to know, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think I created PulseWave Trading? See, if they were to ban you today from trading equities, you could still profit and prosper for what happens in the equity market. Did you know that? You can trade the futures. You can trade financial futures. And if they barred you from trading financial futures, you could still profit from what happens in the equity market and the commodities markets. Did you know that? You still have access. You don't have to trade stocks and futures to benefit financially from what happens in commodities and stocks. Oh, you didn't know that. See, that's the big secret that they don't want you to know. But that's something I've exposed and shared with my PulseWave traders. Yeah, that information, you can find it on our website. If you're a member, it's right on your dashboard under the Educations tab. Yeah, that's right. We have tutorials on it, breaking it down. So if you find yourself in a tough situation where you cannot open an account to trade equities, they won't let you do it. You can't open an account to trade futures, commodity futures, they won't let you do it. You still have a way, ladies and gentlemen. You can still benefit from what happens in commodities, and you can benefit from what happens in equities. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the big secret that they do not want you to know. They're trying to close all your doors, all your avenues of opportunity. That's what they're trying to do. And that's why they're mad that the little guy is starting to beat them at their own game. That's why they want to hurry up and regulate Bitcoin and all the crypto space. They want to hurry up and centralize it so they can take 100% total control over what you're doing. So this whole thing is a joke. They don't care. They're not going to be looking into anything. All right? They're not. Okay? All right? They're not. They're not. They're not going to do it. They're not going to expose themselves. For them to really do due diligence and look into the crude oil debacle, bringing oil to negative 100, that would implement themselves. If they really looked into what happened on 9/11 with the airline stocks shortage, yeah, that would implement themselves too. That's why they're never going to do it. Remember that. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Also, I do not believe that it was the small investors behind the GameStop thing. I told you that. And not everybody that uses the Robinhood app is a small player. Please understand, I told you everything that you can possibly imagine has been infiltrated, ladies and gentlemen. Big hedge funds also have access to those apps. You don't think they have an account there too? It's better for them. They have anonymity. They can do things under the radar that you and I can't. It's the big people that move the markets. Don't you ever forget it. The little guy can't move nothing. It's the big players that move the markets, ladies and gentlemen. How long have you been hearing on the mainstream media? You've been hearing this for decades, that the retail spec is invisible and has not participated in the market since the 90s. That's what you've been taught and programmed to believe for the last 20 years. The retail spec is gone. The retail spec is gone. The retail spec is gone. Thinly traded market, lack of liquidity, thinly traded market. That's what they've been telling you. Now all of a sudden, oh, the retail is back in spades and he's doing his thing. No. Nope. It's not like that at all. Meanwhile, while you weren't looking because you were being led astray through all the fanfare on social media, and all they want you to think about now is GameStop, right? Did you know that HR 127 has been going on right underneath your nose while you've been caught up in the fake debating of GameStop? You see, a new bill in Congress is literally going to end your Second Amendment rights permanently. How often do I have to repeat myself? I told you this months ago, you guys. I told you they were coming for you. Soon, there will be no constitution. It's going to be a new constitution, their constitution. They're coming for your rights. They're coming for your rights. They're coming for your rights. They're coming for your freedom of speech, and they're coming for your guns. If a new bill that has been introduced in Congress eventually becomes law, the Second Amendment will be in the U.S. Constitution, but for all practical purposes, the rights that it's supposed to guarantee will be dead and gone. HR 127 was submitted on January the 4th, and if you have not read it, you can find the full text of it online. It contains a lot of technical language, and so it needs to be broken down a little bit for you. Now that the Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, I repeat, the Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. There's going to be a major push to ram through some form of gun control legislation. If it's not this bill, it will be another one. So you have to stay diligent and don't fall asleep. One of the biggest things that HR 127 would do is that it would create a national firearms registration system that would literally be accessible by anyone. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that President Biden has now pushed through like 40 can't think. Just had a brain fart. Oh my goodness. Power of the pen, ladies and gentlemen, the power of the pen. So he has pushed through like 40 executive orders. And he ain't even been in office a hot minute. All right. And it's the same dude. Okay, this is the same dude. The same dude. Always look at what people say, you guys. Always listen to what they say. All right. Always listen to what they say. It's the same man that said, and I quote, anyone who legislates by executive order should be considered a dictator. That's what he said about Donald Trump. Now, Biden has surpassed any U.S. president in U.S. history in signing 40 executive orders. But I thought you said anyone who legislates by executive order is a dictator. Does that mean you're a dictator, Mr. Biden? HR 127 establishes a federal firearms registration system that will be accessible by federal, state, and local governments, including the military, even the general public. The system will track the make, model, and serial number of all firearms, their owners, the dates they were acquired, and where they are being stored. So if your neighbor, a co-worker, or someone that just wanted to rob your home wanted to know how you were armed, all they would have to do would be to look it up in the firearms registration system. The bill would also apply retroactively. Within 3 months, you would have to report to the government where you brought all of your guns, when they were purchased, and where they are currently being stored. Needless to say, if the government knows where all of your guns are being stored, it will make it that much easier to grab them from you at some future date. This should ring a bell to some of you. Remember right before the gold confiscation? They pulled a similar move here, power move. They do this right before they take away something from you. HR 127 would also require all gun owners to be federally licensed. So they would supersede the state. Federally licensed. Forget what your state say. The federal government is your state now. That would mean that owning a gun would no longer be a right. Instead, it would be reduced to a privilege that the government could take away at any time. Now, you don't need me to I'm not a constitutional scholar, but you don't need to be a constitutional scholar to know that HR 127 is unconstitutional. Anything that contradicts the Constitution is unconstitutional, plain and simple. According to the bill, the licensing procedure would include a psychological evaluation for something that is your right. Yes. The licensing requirement mandates that the license applicant undergoes a criminal background check and then submits to a psychological evaluation to determine whether the person is psychologically unsuited to possess a firearm. Successful licensee must show they have an insurance policy which will cost $800. The more bureaucratic red tape you put in front of a person, the more it will deter people from doing it. They're giving themselves the power and the central authority to decide who and who cannot exercise their constitutional rights. Because we know that psychology is pseudoscience. All right? Psychology is pseudoscience, and it is analogous to chart pattern interpretation. Chart patterns are in the eye of the beholder. If I see a bull flag, then golly, it's a bull flag. So whoever's making the determination, if they determine that you are psychologically unfit for whatever reason they deem necessary, you're screwed. You're screwed. You are screwed. Period. Something to think about. Nope, you failed. Well, where did I fail an exam? I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to tell you that. But I answered all the questions. Yeah, I know, but the psychologist has determined that no, I'm sorry, you cannot have a firearm at this time. I don't remember the founding fathers saying that a psychologist has to determine whether or not you can exercise your constitutional rights. Again, this bill is unconstitutional. Well, surely you can agree that someone with a mental illness should not be allowed to own a firearm. First of all, I disagree. It has nothing to do with mental illness. The Constitution says that everyone has the right to keep and bear arms. I'm sorry. Do you want a crazy person? Who gets to decide who's crazy? What is your definition of crazy? Because again, psychology is a pseudoscience. Who gets to determine if someone is sane or insane? Are you going to include narcissists on that list? Sociopaths on that list? If that's the case, then you would need to dismiss all of Congress. You would have to dismiss the entire House and Senate. You would have to dismiss the president. You would have to dismiss everyone in a position of power. What up? What's up? Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Are you going to let this get by you? Come on now. Now, throughout this psychological evaluation process, according to the bill, spouses and other family members would be interviewed or interrogated as well. For the psychological evaluation, a licensed psychologist will interview individual spouses and at least two other family members or associates to further determine the state of the mental, emotional, and relational stability of the individual in relation to firearms. Licenses will be denied to individuals hospitalized for issues such as depressive episodes. No duration for licensed disability is specified, and it does not matter whether the individual sought help voluntarily. Do you know, according to the statistics, every human being at some point in their life will forego a period or a bout of depression? There are different types of depression. All right. The biggest one is the one that is situational. You can feel in despair. You can feel dismayed. If you are on a ship all by yourself and the ship is sinking and you're in the middle of the Atlantic and you have no way to communicate to anyone, not even to the National Guard, and your boat is taking water, you may find yourself in a state of depression. You may find yourself in a situation of despair, a sense of foreboding. Isn't that perfectly normal in that situation? Doesn't matter. But if you had to go see a psychologist, let's say you survived it and then you had to be in therapy for the rest of your life over it because sometimes you get these nightmares about it. Nope, you're unstable. You can't have a firearm. Sorry. According to the bill. HR 127 also criminalizes the possession of large capacity magazines, those carrying greater than 10 rounds, and ammunition that is 0.50 caliber or greater. By now, this has to be sounding very ridiculous to you right now. All right. Now, doesn't this strike you, though, as familiar, like you heard it somewhere before? You should, because that's exactly what Joe Biden has been publicly proposing. During the 2020 campaign, Joe Biden promised a long list of gun control regulations. There is a reason that Michael Bloomberg spent $125 million helping Biden in Florida and something over $600 million nationally in the general election. The agenda includes classifying many semi-automatic rifles and magazines holding more than 10 bullets as Class 3 weapons, which can require 9 months or more for approval and a $200 fee. National gun licensing red flag laws that let judges take away people's guns without a hearing. Background checks on the private transfer of guns, and bans on some semi-automatic firearms that happen to look like military weapons. The number one problem with gun laws, gun legislation, period, is that it only penalizes the model citizen. It doesn't do a darn thing with criminals. Criminals don't care about your laws. They will violate your laws at every turn. This makes it impossible for the average citizen to arm and protect themselves against violent aggression. Did you know that? And not only that, but it also makes it difficult for hunters. Avid professional hunters. This is going to make it difficult for them. Gun rights is a right. It is a law in the Constitution. It is the U.S. Constitution. The right to keep and bear arms and the right to have a militia. The reason you have a militia is for situations like this. It's to help to defend against tyrannical government overreach. We don't have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people anymore. We have a tyrannical government that is out of control. Tisk tisk. I'm just saying, you guys, this is the America that you voted for. According to them, you voted for this. You asked for this. You begged for this. They had you so fixated on Trump that you went out and voted for your own demise. You voted, instead of for freedom, you voted for the executioner. You begged for the executioner. You were pulled over for a moving violation, and instead of the officer handing you a speeding ticket, you asked for the executioner. You said, no, just cut my head off. I don't want the ticket. Cut my head off. But sir, you don't deserve to die. You're just speeding. I just want to give you this ticket so you can be mindful the next time you decide if you want to go speeding again. Nope. I disagree with you. I take issue with that. Your officer, I need you to lop my head off right now. Please go and get the executioner. That's what you guys begged for during this previous election. And while all this is going on, the murder rates across America are going through the roof. Since Black Lives Matter bewitched you to ask for the defunding of the police departments, the homicide rates are now higher and were higher during every month of 2020 relative to rates from the previous year. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not by accident. You begged for it. Do you know we've never seen major city murder rates jump by an average of 30% in a single year? But that's exactly what happened in 2020. Somebody needs to wake up, man. This is getting ridiculous. This is really, really getting ridiculous. HR 127. Y'all know what to do, man. Make sure that don't pass. Call your legislators and tell them they bet not vote for that. They bet not. Tell them they bet not. If you know what's good for you, you'll do it. People always say, what are the solutions? I just gave you a solution. Tell your people not to vote for HR 127. There's your solution. Deal with that one solution first. Take that baby step first and see what happens. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, you need to wake up. All it takes for evil to prosper is for good people to do nothing. I cannot believe that we are living in a time such as these. I cannot believe that this is happening. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it. It really is. I'm being honest. I cannot believe that we are seeing these things happen right before our eyes. I cannot believe that all this is just happening like this and no one is doing anything about it. They're not doing nothing about it. They're too busy being led astray. I don't get it. I don't get it. I thought the American people were better than this. I thought the American people were smarter than this. I really did. Was I wrong about you? Am I wrong about you? Are the American people really that dumb? Really that stupid? Did I bet on the wrong horse? Am I not equipped to own a firearm? Am I brain damaged? What is going on? How can people be so blind, so misguided, so tricked? I never thought I would see it. In the back of my mind, even though I've been pessimistic on it, in the back of my mind, I was always hopeful that the people will wake up at some point. But no, it's not happening. It's not happening. Now we need to talk about something that's probably really going to get us in trouble, but we got to talk about it. France is now raising more questions about AstraZeneca jab. Yep. They're asking questions about the AstraZeneca jab safety as Oxford has now released new data. The latest update on the AstraZeneca Oxford jab was released Tuesday afternoon in a report from the university, which offered more insight on exactly when vaccine-induced immunity begins and how effective the vaccine can be after its first dose and after its second. Unsurprisingly, the data offer a more optimistic read than the batch released by AstraZeneca in Oxford the first time around. But they also suggest that the vaccine is actually more effective overall if doctors wait roughly 3 months before inoculating patients with the second dose, which provides support for current policy in the UK. However, in the US, the FDA recommended vaccination dosing schedule is 21 days, which has endured despite logistical problems and other issues that have caused delivery delays in New York City and elsewhere. So much for the consistency of the science. And the new AstraZeneca vaccine might be able to fix all that. According to the research team, the first dose alone offers 76% protection from symptomatic virus 22 days post-vaccine, but the jab, successfully offers sustained protection through a 3-month period even without receiving the second dose, a data point that has already been transformed into a marketing opportunity by AstraZeneca. Professor Andrew Pollard, chief investigator of Oxford vaccine trial and co-author of the paper, said in a statement, quote, "These new data provide an important verification of the interim data that was used by more than 25 regulators, including the MHRA and EMA, to grant the vaccine emergency use authorization," end quote. It also supports the policy recommendation made by the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunizations for a 12-week prime boost interval as they look for the optimal approach to rollout and reassures us that people are protected from 22 days after a single dose of the vaccine. The new data, which are called from cases extended through December the 7th, purportedly show the optimal window for the second booster dose could be up to 14 weeks. That means it's less risky to give patients the AstraZeneca shot because even if there are supply delays, patients won't be badly harmed. After the second dose, immunity rises to 82.4%. Excuse me. According to data taken from the cases throughout the 3-month interval window, the research team offered the data with a 95% confidence interval of 62.7% to 91.7% at 12 plus weeks. Now, In another unprecedented update, the data suggests the vaccine helps prevent transmission of the virus with 67% reduction in positive swabs among those vaccinated. However, overall cases of any PCR plus were reduced by 67%, 95% CI, 49%, and 78% after a single SD vaccine, suggesting the potential for a substantial reduction in transmission, the authors of the paper wrote. Officials likely hope the report would help cement public support for the AstraZeneca vaccine, at least in Europe, its primary market, where it has inked deals for billions of doses. The AZ vaccine is notably also less effective than Russia's Sputnik V vaccine, according to data published by The Lancet a few days back. Unfortunately, its release was timed with more problematic comments from French President Emmanuel Macron and the French authorities. Dun, 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 dun. Specifically, French health authorities have approved the vaccine, but they have also warned that the AZ Oxford vaccine should only be given to people aged under 65. After the initial preliminary reports on AZ released last year suggest some adverse health reactions in older patients. France has approved the jab, but it ranks as one of the most vaccine skeptic among the major European economies. And you can actually read the research paper online. You can Google that. Surprised they haven't scrubbed that out of existence. But this should also lead to some questions. Are we witnessing in our lifetime in 2021, specifically 2021? I have to ask the question. Are we witnessing the largest human experiment ever conducted? This is a question that we have to ask. It is a very important question. What is really going on here? The people have a right to know. People should not be kept in the dark on what's going on. But instead, that's exactly what's been going on. We, the people, have been kept in the dark because the powers that be, in collusion with the mainstream media, have silenced our arguments. And they have made sure that there is no open air debate among scientists on the subject. For something to be so full of science, there sure is a drought of scientific debate and discovery on the subject. For a vaccine to be so effective, why does it require you to be forced to take it if it's so effective? And for the science to be so settled on the matter, why is there no open scientific debate on the subject? Why is that not being allowed to happen? Wouldn't we be better served to listen to the scientists duke it out, have each one present their case plainly so that people can come to their own conclusions and make well-informed decisions about their health and their family's health? Wouldn't the people be better served in that way? Especially for something to be so scientifically sound, right? We have all the best experts, do you? The last time I checked, there was a thing about that called peer review. No one doctor or scientist is above peer review. Isn't that why they have peer review journals? So that people in the space can debate openly and discuss their scientific findings and discoveries? Isn't that what the open forum is for? Isn't that how mankind has been able to exceed and excel with technology? Is through the process of discovery and the open air trading of ideas? Oh, how did you do that? Oh, well, we found a way to farm better and to get your corn to come out of the ground faster and better. And we found ways to do this and that. Oh, that's neat. Let me see that. Yeah, we found a way to engineer our automobiles so that even though we're still using fossil fuels, the car will get more mileage on less fuel. Oh, really? Let me see that. That sounds neat. Yeah, we're willing to share that with you. But can you tell us, can you share with us how you make that peanut butter? Because we have tried and we just can't get our peanut butter to look like that and taste like that. Would you be willing to share your peanut butter recipe? Sure. Isn't that how mankind has been able to achieve what he has been able to achieve through discovery and through sharing of ideas? How have we gotten away from that all of a sudden? We've gotten away from the marketplace of ideas, and we've since adopted the tyrannical space of ideas, where the only ideas that matter are those that are in power. We will, for your sake, parade a so-called doctor, scientist, expert in front of you, and whatever he says, that is going to be what it is. And there will be no debate or discussion, and no dissent will be tolerated in the matter. You will be censored, ostracized, and lose your standing in the community if you continue to go down that path of opposition. No opposition is allowed. This is where we have gone. And it's really sad and it's really disgusting. I can't believe that we have fallen to such a level, and to have done so quickly, ladies and gentlemen. This is really messed up. And not a whole lot is being done about it. I don't know if the people have been just so psychologically and intellectually neutered to the point where they can't rebel, that they have to wait for their overlords to give them the causes that they want them to be angry and rebel about. No one seems to be standing up to any of this. They're just allowing it. The mainstream media went on a campaign frenzy to get you to hate Trump so that they could push through the candidate they wanted you to have. They made you beg for your servitude, just like they said they would. They said they were going to do this 12 years ago, and that's exactly what they've done. They have masterminded their plan with little to no opposition. They have used the means at their disposal to accomplish exactly what they set out to do. You have to be impressed by that. The power of their media. Media is an arm of the elite, of your overlords. They're using psychological tactics to push through their agendas in magnificent ways. I have to say, I'm taken aback. You have to admit it is rather impressive what they've been able to accomplish with little to no resistance. They created a fake rebellion to get you on board with that so that you wouldn't be left alone with your thoughts long enough to see the true enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if there's an escape from this. I don't think so. I don't think you can get out of this one. I think it's really too late now. You've allowed way too much time to pass. The time where we could have stopped this and put an end to this, I think is gone. I think Americans messed up. I think you messed up big time. Because for the longest time you thought there was a two-party system. That's not in the Constitution. Their founding fathers didn't mean and intend for a two-party system, but that's what they presented to you because they knew it would be easier to control you. And you fell for that. You went for it. You said, yeah, I'm a Democrat. Well, I'm a Republican. There's no independent. There's no independent power structure. It's just Democrat and Republican, which is all the same. It's the same person. It's the same people. Behind closed doors, they agree on everything. But out in the open, they appear to be fighting and bickering with one another because they serve a higher power that you don't get to see because it's the power behind the power that is pulling all the strings. And you're left in the dark on that. You don't even know what's going on with that. You have no idea what's happening. You really don't know. You really can't see the forest for the trees. You think it's one way, but it's another way altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been bewitched. You've been duped. You've been played. And now it's too late because they've installed this system. They've installed something here that's kind of scary. And like I said, I don't think that you're going to be able to get out from it. I don't think so. I think it's too late. What are you going to do? The election just happened. You got 4 years of this new regime. What are you going to do? Seriously, what are you going to do? I don't know if there's anything you can really do. I really don't know. I think that America sealed its fate. Remember what I said to you, about the elections? I said, here's how you know exactly where America is in the process of divine judgment. I said, because if Trump wins, then you have received a respite of grace. However, if Biden gets into the office, your downfall will accelerate. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing her downfall accelerate. And that should concern any and everybody right now. Really, I'm serious. I'm trying to get people to open their eyes. I've been trying, but I don't think too many people are really listening right now. I think people are really content with their servitude. They're like really okay with it. They don't see a problem. They're like, why are you concerned? Everything is great for me. Everything is going good for me. How can you be happy when your brethren are suffering? I don't understand that. But that's what we got. This is what we got, ladies and gentlemen. You got to face this. This is what we got. This is real. Let me ask you this question. See, this right here is going to be a litmus test to test just how far gone you really are. Especially if you don't think you've been mentally neutered by what's been happening. Mentally neutered by your government. All right? Let's see if your mental faculties are still intact. Let's see if you would be able to pass the psychological exam if that HR bill were to pass today. Okay? You ready? Here we go. I want you to tell me which is the more reasonable approach a society might take in the outbreak of an epidemic? Do you choose A or B? A is to quarantine the sick and take reasonable precautions to stop those who are identified as vulnerable from contracting the illness? Or is it B, to attempt to control the virus by preventing millions of healthy people from having contact with other healthy people? Which is it, A or B? Do you quarantine the sick and take reasonable precautions to stop those who are identified as vulnerable from contracting the illness? Which is it, A or B? Or is it B, to attempt to control the virus by preventing millions of healthy people from having contact with other healthy people? Which do you decide? Which is the more reasonable approach? Your answer to this question will let you know just how brain damaged you have become. And it's not entirely your fault. The correct answer is A. To any society prior to 2020, it would have been obvious that the first approach is not only logical and proportionate, but the one least likely to have other unintended and highly destructive consequences. But to yours and my astonishment, many in our society not only believe that the answer is B, but they somehow believe it to be based on established scientific fact. They think it's science. Now, I know, I get it. There's still those of you out there who support lockdowns. And so you won't pick A, you'll pick B. But here's an undeniable fact for you. Lockdowns are, by their nature, an entirely untargeted and indiscriminate approach to a health issue. And the prohibiting by law of millions of healthy people from having contact with other healthy people is a feature, not a bug, of a policy that was untried and untested before it was first implemented by the Chinese Communist Party in January of 2020, then copied by many governments around the world thereafter. Okay? Do you want to know the truth? I will give you the truth. Just like I just said to you, lockdowns of any nature is a purely untargeted and indiscriminate approach. And it's not a health thing. It has nothing to do with health. You will not see lockdowns in any of the training manuals and training videos and training classes at FEMA under any circumstance, or the CDC, because it's never been done before and it's not in any of the training manuals. How do I know? Because I took said courses. I was made to. I had to do it. I had a brief stint in law enforcement, and it was mandatory. Yep. Let me explain to you what lockdowns are. This is what a lockdown is. Lockdowns were taken from prison, from the prison industrial complex. Lockdowns is a prison thing. Lockdown is a jail thing. Lockdown is when you take all of the inmates and you lock them down into their cells. All right? Into their appropriate houses. That's what a lockdown is. Everyone must go inside. If you're out in the yard, you're no longer going out in the yard. No more out and about. No more freedom of moving around. Lockdown means you are no longer free to move around. You are locked down. You cease all egress and ingress. That's what a lockdown is. Let me repeat. A lockdown is to cease all ingress and egress. No one is allowed in or out. The building is locked down. They took the lockdown policy and procedure right out of the page of the prisons, and then they incorporated it into the public school system. The school is now locked down. What happens? Kids go to their respective classrooms. The doors are locked. No one is allowed in the school. No one is allowed out of the school. That is what a lockdown is. A lockdown does nothing to treat medical conditions of any kind. It is not meant to. Lockdowns are specifically designed to stop egress and ingress. Cease all movement, cease all activity. Lockdown. Lockdowns can be called for many reasons. I'll give you just a couple taken right out of the prison handbook. Are you ready? Here we go. Take your local jail, for instance. It's razor day. Razors are handed out to the inmates who want to shave. You hand out approximately 100 razors. When you go to collect those razors, you better collect 100 razors. And each razor better have the razor blade in it. What happens when you go to collect those razor blades and one is missing? Do you know what happens? Lockdown. The entire facility is on lockdown until you find the missing razor blade. Same thing. Here's another example taken right out of the prison handbook. Someone's working in the shop with their tools involved. You could be working on cars, working on woodwork, whatever. Each tool is checked out and something called a CHAD is given. You must return the tool with said CHAD. What do you think happens if a tool goes missing and or CHAD associated with that tool goes missing? Lockdown. The entire facility is locked down until said instrument is found, and not a moment sooner. Don't care if it takes all day or all night. No one is going home. No one is leaving the facility until that is found. And that includes all staff. No one is to move. All inmates must be locked down in their respective houses. No one is moving. This is a lockdown. We are searching for said contraband. No one's moving until we find it. And we will find it. There's a report in the facility. Someone has a gun. What? An inmate has a firearm? Yes. Lockdown until we find said firearm. No one is going to move. No one is going home. No one is coming into the facility or leaving the facility. I don't care what the circumstance is until we find said contraband. That is what lockdowns are intended to do. They have nothing to do with health. They have nothing to do with quarantine. Lockdown and quarantine are night and day. They have nothing to do with each other. Lockdown is about security. You lock down for security, not for health. Lockdown will do nothing for your health. It's for security. It's because we need to do some investigation. Something is happening. We must lock down. No one is moving. Okay? All right? That's what it is. If you don't believe me, ask any one of your friends or family members who've ever done time or worked in law enforcement. They can go ahead and confirm that for you, what a lockdown truly is. They lock down for security reasons and to search for contraband. Lockdowns always accompany a search. They will go cell to cell, room by room. Every room in the facility will be turned upside down looking for said contraband. No one will be allowed to move a muscle until we find that contraband. You think it's a joke? It's not a joke. You can't even clock out and go home. You ain't, my shift's over. No, it's not. Lockdown. We're going to find this. Only on certain circumstances would they just let y'all roll out. My shift's over. Here's my relief. I'm out. Okay, fine. You can go. You can go. But typically, ain't nobody going nowhere. And it depends on the nature of the emergency. There have been lockdowns where no one is allowed in or out of the facility, period. No one. Depends on the situation. But that's what a lockdown is intended to do. Search for contraband and or for security reasons. You heard there was going to be a rumble. You heard that such and such groups was going to mix it up and get it in on the yard today. Well, guess what? Ain't no yard time today. Lockdown. Straight up. You heard that such and such contraband was smuggled in today. Oh, we're going to find that contraband. You think it's a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a game. Even during arrests, when people are locked up, taken in. Let's say there was a drug bust or something. We believe so-and-so swallowed the evidence. Guess what's going to happen? That person will be locked down by themselves in an open unit. What that means is they're going to go into a cell that is not blocked. It's not, a door you can't see through. It's going to be all see-through glass, plexiglass, whatever. They're going to be watched, and they're not allowed out of there until they pass whatever is they swallow. You be like, well, all I'm going to do is flush it down the toilet. Oh, you didn't know? Yeah, see, the toilet in there doesn't flush. It's not designed to. Yup, that toilet does not flush. So they will pass that instrument one way or another. And they will not leave until they do. What if it takes days? Well, then it takes days. I have seen it with my own eyes. She swallowed the drugs. Really? Okay, well, go ahead and stick her in that cell right there where she's going to be watched 24/7. Eyes are on that person until they pass it. And you will pass it eventually. Want to know why? Because you're a human being. You're a biological entity. You're going to need to eat and or drink at some point. It's inevitable. You will eat or drink. And when you do, you will pass it. That is what a lockdown is designed to do, ladies and gentlemen. Search for contraband and for security reasons. Oh no, there's an active shooter at the school. Lockdown. Lockdown. No one is moving and going nowhere until active shooter is taken out. That's how that works. Lockdowns are designed for security and the search of contraband, not health. It does not help. It does not work and aid in the process of quarantine. Quarantine and lockdown are two different things entirely. Entirely. Not even in the same ballpark. And the last time I checked, this wasn't a prison planet. So once again, Alex Jones was right. This is a prison planet because the whole planet was locked down simultaneously. No one was allowed egress or ingress. That's not true. Yes, it is true. International flights were canceled. No one was going anywhere. That's ingress. You don't allow anyone in. That's ingress. Egress is when you allow things to leak out. All right. Such as in cable theory. All right. Where you're allowing signal to leak out of your RG6 cable line. All right. Therefore, lockdowns have nothing to do with health. I think I've made my case. But for some reason, many lockdownists seem to think that the onus is on lockdown opponents to disprove their position. But as Dr. Malcolm Kendrick points out in his excellent piece titled, "Does Lockdown Work or Not?" This is the opposite of how things are supposed to work. Quote, "The starting point for any scientific hypothesis is for the proponents to disprove the null hypothesis, demanding that those who believe something may not work to prove that it doesn't work is to turn the scientific method upside down. Why? Because you can never prove a negative," end quote. You can never prove a negative. You can never prove a negative, ladies and gentlemen. But that is the pseudoscience we're left with in today's world. You're forced to prove a negative, and they never have to prove their hypothesis. Even so, he goes on to point out that most of the countries with the highest deaths per million are those which had fairly stringent lockdowns. And therefore, the data so far most certainly does not show that lockdowns are effective in medical terms, ladies and gentlemen, even on their own terms. Once again, lockdowns have nothing to do with health. They never have, they never will, because that's not the purpose for which lockdowns were intended. Once again, you cannot prove a negative, and they have failed to prove their hypothesis. And I think the unintended consequences are the proof of it. Look what happened. Not only did you wreck the global economy, but you also wrecked lives of countless people who would have otherwise survived. You see, folks, you are witnessing the psychological, social, and economic experimentation on the masses on a global scale. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. This is a psyop to the nth degree. We have now moved to the medical experimentation segment of this experiment, by which the giving of so-called vaccines to millions of people, so-called because they don't actually stop people getting the virus, and it is not yet known whether they prevent transmission. Incredibly, if you look at the Pfizer Biotech SE clinical study trial on the U.S. National Library of Medicine clinical trials database, you will notice something very odd, which is that the estimated study completion date is on January the 31st of 2023. This is, quote, the date on which the last participant in a clinical study was examined or received an intervention treatment to collect final data for the primary outcome measures, secondary outcome measures, and adverse events, end quote. In other words, the medium to long-term side effects of this product cannot possibly be known because the study is still ongoing and enough time has not elapsed also. The long and short of it is, as Professor Badaki points out in his excellent interview, is this. Every single person now getting these jabs is effectively an unwitting test subject in the largest medical experiment ever carried out, having been asked to give their consent to receive a product injected into their bodies without being properly informed as to the status of the product. Simply put, neither those administering these jabs nor those receiving them can have any idea of the potential medium to long-term consequences of these things because the companies producing them have not completed the studies on them. And no, it is not the mark of an anti-vaxxer to be deeply concerned about this. It is just the mark of having one's critical faculties in working order and of caring about what is being done to people. It's called loving your neighbor as yourself. Both lockdowns and the vaccines are essentially a mass experiment on humanity. The mid to long-term consequences of both are entirely unknown. Future generations will marvel at how the authorities were able to do this, but they will marvel even more at how millions of people acquiesce without much thought of it, not even so much of a whimper. None of this can possibly bode well. We need to humble ourselves and take a long, hard look at what we are doing or allowing to be done to us as a matter of the utmost urgency. Ladies and gentlemen, we got some work to do. People need to stand out against this. This is what you need to be mad about and concerned about. This is what the real news is. Okay? Straight up. This is it. Full disclosure of everything and allow for open air debate of medical professionals. Straight up. Straight up. And you know what? You're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. I think I rest my case. I think I've covered things quite thoroughly here. And with that being said, you know what you need to do. You need to smash that like button. Smash it. Share the video with people, friends and family members. Help us grow the channel. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I am out. Peace.